Old Grandpa Hightower was not a man to be trifled with. He was a giant, a towering, slab-sided old man who stood 6 feet 6 in his cowboy boots and could have been taller. His face had the long, narrow chin of a snake. His eyes were small but so deep-set they looked like little black buttons. His eyebrows were the only part of his face that showed any emotion, and these were thin and arched like a pair of curved sabers. His skin was the color of old oak, and he always wore a gray wool shirt with a leather vest over it, the sleeves of which were rolled up to his elbows. On his left hand was a silver ring with a big green stone. On the back of his left hand there was a tattoo, a single green eye staring out from under a raised black brow. The old man's hair was thick and gray, and he kept it long and back in what seemed to be an imitation of a southern planter. He had come to the West to make his fortune, and had made it and more. He was the owner of the largest ranch in New Mexico. He had won the state's most valuable ranching competition 3 times. His cattle were known from Canada to Mexico, and some people said they had been seen as far away as Australia and Africa. Old Grandpa Hightower had ridden with the James gang, and had killed a couple of men in gun battles and won with his fists. But his principal claim to fame was that he had once owned the great Ponderosa Ranch and had sold it to a man named John L. Sullivan for $2 and a bottle of whiskey. This story was well known throughout the West and was one of the legends of the age. It was the kind of story that people told to make themselves look good and to show off how much they knew. But there were plenty of other stories about him too. For example, there were those who swore that he was so rich that he owned all of the money in circulation in the United States. They said that he was so powerful that he had bribed or intimidated every man who had ever held public office in New Mexico. In a way, it was true. Old Grandpa Hightower owned almost all of the land in New Mexico. He owned all of the banks. He owned all of the mines. He owned all of the ranches except one, the Ponderosa, which he had sold to Sullivan for $2 and a bottle of whiskey. And he was also the biggest cattleman in the West and, by some estimates, the richest. There was no doubt that he was a power in New Mexico, but he was not a very nice man. He was hard on his employees. He cheated them out of wages and worked them like dogs. He drove them so hard they had to wear spiked boots on their legs to keep them from bleeding to death. He would often leave his foreman without a single man to help him round up his stock and drive it to market, and if his foreman came to work late, old Grandpa Hightower would dock his pay. And he had a bad temper. If a man crossed him in any way, he would punish him by sending him to work at the most dangerous and difficult tasks on his ranch. Sometimes, if he didn't like the look of a man, he would kill him. He had shot a Mexican woman who had been trying to steal some of his horses, and he had hung a young Irishman by his feet in a corral after he had been whipped for stealing some horses from him. Old Grandpa Hightower had a reputation for being a cold-blooded killer. So when the man with the scar face stepped into his office at the Red Lazy one day in November, old Grandpa Hightower wasn't surprised to see him. The old man had been expecting him for weeks. He had heard about his visit to Tombstone and about his shooting of Tom McQuarrie, and he knew that he was looking for him, although he had no idea why he was looking for him. "What can I do for you, Mr. Hightower?" Hightower said. Hightower stood behind his desk and motioned for the man to sit down in a chair across from him. The man did not move. "I understand that you are looking for me," the old man said. "That is true," said the man, still standing. "But it ain't for you I'm looking." "For whom, then?" "That don't matter," the man said, still not taking a seat. "I am willing to pay good money for information about my enemy," the old man said. "You are obviously not my enemy." "No, sir," said the man. "I don't suppose I'm your enemy either." The old man smiled at the man's answer, but he couldn't help but feel a sense of foreboding at the mention of money. There was something in the tone of the man's voice that indicated he had money, and plenty of it. The old man knew he should have seen this coming. "Why do you want to find me, if I may ask?" "I think I know why you are here," the man said. "I think I know why you have come to New Mexico." The old man's smile faded. "Who are you?" "My name is Mr. Holliday," the man said. "William F. Billy Holliday." The old man nodded slightly in acknowledgement of the name but said nothing. He knew who this was. He knew that he was a good man, a tough man, but a decent one. He had never met Mr. Holliday before, but he had heard a lot about him, mostly good things.